Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Talk About the POTS Life, your go-to podcast for all things POTS. Whether you're living with POTS or supporting someone who is, this is the place for you.
Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About the POTS Life.
Today it's exciting because we're bringing you a different viewpoint of the POTS life and the entire program. Lauren, a different Lauren, is joining us, and she is in the program a little bit earlier on compared to some of the graduates, but this is just going to bring a different perspective. It allows you to learn from her. She's just starting. She's a mom, so we're excited to have her. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lauren. I only know about your food, so I'm excited to learn more about you today. Do you want to start off telling us just how you got your diagnosis with POTS?
Yeah, so I realized something was very wrong 38 weeks into pregnancy. I just woke up one morning and my life was different. Like I could not see straight. It was really just the worst dizziness I've ever had in my life. And then postpartum, it just got progressively worse to the point where, I went to see the doctor. I actually went to the ER a million times like everyone else.
I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Especially pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother level.
Yeah. And they didn't know what was wrong. And then I was actually hospitalized with postpartum preeclampsia because my blood pressure was spiking and doing its thing. And I just continued to have problems after that. So I got with the doctor and they were like, yeah, it's definitely looks like POTS. So
When I met Lauren, like Britt said, she only knows her from the nutrition side within the app, but I had a conversation with Lauren on one of the POTS calls before she started the program. And I was telling Britt before we started that it was like looking in a mirror when I turned on the camera that day, being at rock bottom. I feel like everybody hits it at different points. And I saw myself in Lauren because that was me after the birth of my second son. I just didn't know what happened. Like my life was turned upside down, and now you not only have a toddler, but then you have a newborn, and you can't even you can barely take care of yourself. So when we turned on the camera, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is just me. And then hearing Lauren's story and, kind of coming after pregnancy and things like that, it's just a lot. But did you have any symptoms prior to this, prior to 38 weeks? Some people can look back and see, like, track it differently, or was that not something you saw?
yeah, so I think we all become like our own investigators.
For sure.
And so I was like, I was trying to think back so hard on like, did I have this before? So in 2023, I got COVID in the summer, and then I got it a few more times. And then in early 2024, I got pregnant. And so I remember having very weird symptoms during that COVID phase. And I actually looked back at old text messages and I texted my husband in February of 24. I was like, I think I have long COVID. Like, I feel like this just never went away. Then I became pregnant. And so I think it was just those triggers. I think your body just can only take but so much. And
it's so down and out, and then it just compounds, and then that final straw. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be most times it's not even anything big.
Yeah,
and then
I think
you're never the same.
Was the final, like whatever happened at 38 weeks, it was like, nope, done.
We're tapped out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is scary in itself because you don't know, and pregnancy and then going through the postpartum, preeclampsia, like all of those things, your body just compounded all of the stress when it just couldn't take any more. So once you were diagnosed with POTS, kind of walk us through, what did you think? And then like what happened next?
Yeah. So I just knew something was wrong after I had my daughter, and after the preeclampsia, like symptoms never went away. Like I was like, this can't just be the preeclampsia, postpartum preeclampsia.
Right.
So I was just researching like crazy. And, I kind of figured out, I'm like, I think I have this. And, the doctor confirmed it. And I got really lucky with this dysautonomia specialist. She's amazing. She, gave me a lot of tips and everything. And I just kept reading that exercise was what was going to help me. And I had just been YouTubing POTS, YouTubing so many things, Kelsey's story. And I was like, and I think I watched it probably 5 times or so before I was to hear. I was looking at someone that got better, had 2 kids, and your whole story just really spoke to me. And I was like, I'm just going to set up this consultation, she's got this program. And yeah, I think in December or January we talked.
Right,
And
and I can't even tell you how many people say to me, or I'll get people scheduling calls at, like, 3 a.m.
yeah,
because you can't sleep or you've had a terrible night and you've been
yeah,
up all night or, like, researching at 5 a.m.,
yeah,
the depths of the internet to find something, but, I mean, I was there when I was diagnosed. I just did a article, a reporter came and she's
yeah.
like, "How did you know where to look for treatment?" I said, "You don't. You just start scouring the internet, and that's part of the problem. It's
Yes.
not easily found." So
Yeah.
you have to just search and search and search, and how those algorithm works, it just happens to be if you fall upon the right thing? So it's so common. And she said, "Oh, is that what made you share your story?" I said, "Exactly that, because I was that girl
Yeah.
scouring the internet, watching the story multiple times." And at the time, Cleveland Clinic had a liaison who was a news reporter from she lived in Hawaii at the time of diagnosis, but, like, her world fell apart, and then, she was kinda doing some work with them, and she showed hope to others, and I'm like, "That is what this community needs, not that you get diagnosed and have salt, drink water, that's it." Like, there has to be more, especially just had a baby, your 2nd child, there just has to be more.
Yeah. It was a nightmare because, like, when you go to the ER, like, I'd been a bunch of times even after the preeclampsia issue, and they just didn't my final visit, they were like, "Yeah, we just think it's some sort of dysautonomia." They're like, "You need to go to a specialist." They just didn't have
Mm-mm.
anything else for me, and the doctor said something like, "Hopefully, it resolves for you in 6, 7 months." I don't know, and
Like
That's terrible.
I
right.
it's very hopeless when you have medical professionals that just don't know how to
No.
they don't have anything for you, and,
Did
No, you go home.
yeah.
Just go
Yeah.
home. Good
And
luck.
the timing of this with your postpartum, like, that's gonna be tough too, like, oh, it's just baby blues or because
Yeah.
you're postpartum, but this was your
Mhm.
2nd child, so you're like, "This is not what happened after the first one," like, it's
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
I knew something was very, very wrong, and I think, like, my family at first, they were like, "Oh, maybe postpartum depression, maybe postpartum anxiety," or I had a
Mhm.
C-section. They're like, after major surgery, whatever.
Yep.
I was
Yeah.
like, "No, there's no way.
There's
There's
This
this
something
is
different.
different. Yeah. Mhm.
terrible." But yeah, and then I think when they saw me, like, literally barely being able to walk, they were like, "Oh,
This
this
is
is"
something different.
Right.
yeah,
And that's what people don't understand. They're like, "Oh, she just had her 2nd baby." You
yeah,
can be gaslighted and be told it's different things. But then, like Britt
Mhm.
said, postpartum adds a whole nother thing. So
Yep.
you having to advocate through that on top of other things is so frustrating. But it is, you have to become your own, like, patient investigator and be like, okay, something's just not adding up here. And when Lauren and I spoke, she burst into tears and I'm like, this is me. That's what I wanted to be like in Cleveland Clinic and just cry. I tell this story almost probably on every podcast. Brett's heard it a million times. But when I shut the lid on my computer after meeting with the Cleveland Clinic, I burst into tears and Kale's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Finally, I feel validated
yeah,
that someone else is like, no, this is real." But then also, okay, but you're going to get better. I'm going
yeah,
to get you better. You just have to put in the work. And I just felt like I was looking in a mirror with Lauren because she's like,
yeah,
this just makes so much sense because she knew so much and she had done her homework and knew a lot, but also me then helping to fill in and put the pieces in. And then we all hit rock bottom at different points. And I feel
Yeah.
like that day she was like, okay, we have to make a change. And then she started on the app.
yeah. Yeah, no, I remember looking at Kelsey in that interview, and I was like, it was the only time I had hope. I was like, even
Aw.
I was like, this is like I knew it was gonna be okay because I saw her as a mom, and she had 2
Mhm.
kids. Like, my daughter's 3, my other daughter's 5 months, so, like, very
Yeah.
similar.
So it's literally how they were.
Yeah.
And I just saw her functioning. I see you living your life and doing all this. I'm like, okay, I knew it was gonna be okay. I just knew. And, but I didn't know it would be this okay. I didn't know it would be
Aw.
this good.
I have
Like, I'm
chills.
really blown away. I mean, I was bedridden, could not function. And now I'm driving my daughter to school by myself. I never
Yeah.
thought I'd be able to do that.
And
So,
it's those things right there. People don't know what's going on at home. They saw on like Instagram or Facebook, we always see like, oh, she just had a baby, whatever. But you're not able to get up with the baby or you're not able to drive your daughter or function. Or someone was saying today to me, oh my gosh, I walked my dog around the neighborhood for the first time. And it seems so small, right? And then it made me
Mhm.
think with my kids, the fact The day that I could post a picture, which seems so stupid, but I pushed my kids in a double stroller and walking the dog in my neighborhood. It was like I hit the lottery. I'm like,
Yeah.
I did it. I'm like all my other neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember because I walked around the neighborhood for the first time like a few weeks ago. And it's a lot of getting past the fear and like knowing how to
For sure.
push and
Yeah.
knowing when to push your limits.
Mhm.
Because it was so, I would walk halfway and be like, nope, I'm going back. I'm not gonna do it. And then there was one day where I'm like, just going to go. And I did it. And then
Yes.
I got past that fear of,
Mhm.
you know, so it's just finding that balance, but it gets, oh my gosh, it gets so much better. I thought it'd get this much better, you know.
And how far into your POTS journey are you?
I think I'm almost to the 4th month.
Okay.
So I'm still in month 3.
Yeah. And she is what I say, you know, everybody's a little different, but and this is why when we do those calls in the beginning where I'm like, I can't guarantee you anything, but these are the trends people see. And it's just what she said. Like they were little wins. And then she got to drive her daughter to school. And then the wins just keep stacking. So those wins become bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And I can't imagine being as sick as I was. Like I had like the MCAT, if you say it, mast cell activation.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I couldn't barely eat food. I mean, it was very severe. And so, I mean, yeah, I got the exercise just did it for me. It worked so well. I felt so much better even after that first exercise. I was like, this is so great.
Isn't it crazy what good blood flow can do for you?
Blood flow, like, oh my gosh. Like I never would have thought about, you don't think about that before you're sick, before you have this.
No. And it affects so many different systems in so many different ways. So just thinking blood flow, now it makes sense, like realizing how much you need that. But you don't realize just because you're just trying to survive every day and the symptoms that you saw in the beginning, what would you say your biggest symptoms were?
Oh, the dizziness. Dizziness drove me nuts and just feeling like I had the flu every day.
Oh, that's the worst. That's why I said it's just so like me, like that leg achiness.
Yeah.
I mean, and some days it would get worse, and I would say to my husband, I'm either getting really sick or I'm going to get on the bike and see if I can get rid of some of it. And most times you got rid of it, but it's horrible.
Yeah, that was me too. If I would work out, I'm like, I don't feel good, but I'm like, I'm going to walk or I'm going to like, you know, get some break. I'm like, oh, I feel so much better.
So much better.
But yeah, no, my dizziness was the worst and the nausea. I even had some weird symptoms where I felt like I couldn't swallow. I mean, I think I had every symptom in the book. It was just bizarre. I feel like I wouldn't believe someone telling me.
Well, I mean, that's why we tend to feel crazy ourselves.
Yeah. Like, there's no way I have this. Like, there's no way someone has that many problems.
Yeah.
But no, your nervous system, I mean, it's nuts.
It gets so many different ways. And this is why you see all those different physicians and no one can put it together because why can't I swallow? But then I have migraines, but then I have terrible joint pain, but then I feel like I have the flu. And then you're postpartum, just chalk it up to that. So many things. It's hormones. I had a C-section also. It was the C-section. Did all those things help? No, probably not. But it wasn't the root cause.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And with your mast cell, you were sharing that you eat. Do you want to share about like how your timing is with your food and your water intake too?
Yeah, I do probably I'm very strict with my water and food. So I pretty much went entirely gluten-free because I feel like overnight I'm like, oh, this is making me feel sick. I'm like, so I went gluten-free, feel so much better. And I eat every 2 hours, keep that blood sugar stable. Because if I don't do that, I'm not going to feel good. And then with the water, I probably do like 90 ounces a day. I think if I do too much, it makes me sick. And I think some people can do too much with it. For me, I was much before. I think I was doing like 120. It was just a little much for me. But yeah, I just really became so strict with everything how I do everything diet wise, and it's helped tremendously. So.
I think a lot of people do that. That's probably one of the main questions we get is how much water? Britt gets this. Well, what should my fluids intake be? Or what is the number on electrolytes? And I mean, we could give ranges, but some Britt will tell you
so personalized.
It's so personalized and they'll blow it out of the water. But I'm the same way. I can't have too much. I have one person who, if you get an IV, that helps most people. if she overloads too much, she almost feels worse. So we're also alike, but still different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I got an IV and I was like, oh, it's going to make me feel so much better. And for me, it just, my
See?
eyes were like swollen.
Yes, that
Like,
was same thing. Her name's Lindsay.
I was like, I don't like this. Like, it
Yeah,
just,
she was like, "Kels, I felt worse." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And
yeah.
then I remembered when she would like hit the electrolytes harder, same thing would happen. She would
Yep.
feel like sluggish and gross. And so I'm like, it just goes to show you every specific body is
Yeah.
different.
Oh, so different. That's what's so hard. I just feel, I feel for the medical community because it's like, they got to be stumped with this, but it's so
Yeah.
individual.
And it's
Mhm.
really taking that basic, right, understanding of what's going on and then tailoring it to what best fits your needs, like the amount of water, the timing of 2 hours. That's just my recommendation. That's what I'm not a POTS patient, but I also
Yeah.
eat every 2 hours because I'm
Yeah.
like a child. But it's just good overall for your blood sugar maintenance. Like you said, those spikes in blood sugar and drops could exacerbate your symptoms. Like your
Mhm.
dizziness for sure is one that could be re-triggered if you're
That
not
like
managing it.
shakiness and
Mhm.
that tremoriness, it's like those
Yep.
for sure if you're going. I just had a
Absolutely.
patient in here say she was gonna try this new program and it was like fasting. And she was like,
Ah,
"I tried it for 2 days," and she goes, "I felt like I was gonna pass out." I'm like, "Yeah, when was the last time you ate?" And she was like, "Well, I ate at 5 and then not again till 11." I said, "Well, don't do that."
Yeah. No. No.
No, you can't. Our body
To die.
POTS bodies, like, crave
Yep.
consistency, and she hasn't had dizziness in 8 months. I'm like, "Mm-mm."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just because something's trendy or it's out there doesn't mean it's
Mhm.
gonna work for you in your
No.
current state. I met with someone the other day that she was great eating every 2 hours, but then she stopped eating at 4:35. It's like, I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I'm like, "Yeah, your body's starving. Have a snack."
Starving.
Yeah, have
Yes.
something else because that you're breaking the fast and like that while you're sleeping, your
Yeah.
body needs that energy to keep it going. And if you're not doing it's gonna exacerbate your symptoms
Oh,
100%.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it brings on things that you might not have seen in a long time,
Mhm.
or if you hold off and you don't eat, then you go eat a big meal and then digestion, and then they have high heart rate after. It's just not a good thing. So you having it down like that is so helpful. And I was year 1 of diagnosis, things were like my water, everything was super strict. Now I probably like around 90 ounces, but people say to me, "Oh, well, don't you still do electrolytes?" A ton of my patients do LMNTs. And I'm like, I'm at a point now that no, if I feel like I do, I'll add some in here and there. When it's hotter out, I'll add it in. But, some live and die by an LMNT in the morning and a liquid IV in the afternoon or something like that. But you just get to know your body where
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah. I'm like that with the LMNTs. I'm like 2 a day. I do not
Yes.
miss.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
one putting those in.
Yes, and in the beginning, it's crucial. It's crucial because
Yeah.
you
Oh,
need
yeah.
that salt to bind to that water to
Yes.
decrease symptoms and
Yeah.
improve blood pressure and blood volume and things like that. So 100%, but 4 years later, you'll be able to have a little leeway, which is
It
good.
is so good to hear that. Like, oh my gosh, just hearing the stories because in the beginning, I'm like, it
Oh.
just lasted. The symptoms were so bad. And it was
So bad.
every single day. And then it's like when you start to feel better, it's like, wow, this is really
I
cool.
will say, and we were having this conversation in office today, that you'll go along great. When you get that first illness, don't panic because symptoms
Yeah.
come with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And then I actually think mentally, it's harder to deal with that in the moment. Like this person, her first big setback. And it's
Yeah.
mean because you taste the feeling of feeling better. But for
Yeah.
me, mentally, I was like, I'm never going back there. I don't want to, how am I ever going to feel it?
Yeah.
Tears, all the things. The good news is that hole that you were in is way more shallow. So you do
Yeah.
come down a little bit, but then you get right back on
Yeah.
and you get to see that progress again. And it's not nearly as long or nearly as bad. But mentally, it feels so bad because you were feeling a little better. But
Yeah.
before you start, you don't know any other way of survival. I think Lauren, who was on the last podcast, was also doing this interview for the newspaper. And she said to me this week, she said, the reporter said, it sounds like you do a lot, but you were suffering. And she was like, there's no alternative.
What's the option? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the frustrating part with POTS. Like you have 2 kids. What's your alternative? You had to
Yeah.
keep going. You suffer, but you
Yeah.
had to keep going.
Yeah, you got to push through. And my kids have helped me. I mean, I'm so active with them that they've helped me stay up. I mean, like,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
getting in so many more steps and picking them up and, on
Yeah.
top of doing, the strength exercises. So, I credit them for getting me better too,
Yeah, they give you that motivation, right?
Like,
That's
yeah.
you don't have a choice, right? No off days as moms.
No, never, never, never.
When you joined the app and you started, and so obviously we know you partake in the nutrition part and those kind of aspects. Can you share a little bit of things that you liked on the app or what you found helpful or what surprised you, different things like that?
The entire thing I just love. I think it's
Oh,
seriously, like,
Love it.
I just go to that app all the time, like, just logging the meals for me,
mhm.
I just love doing that because I can go back and see, you know, match a really good day
Yeah.
and day to what I
And
Yeah,
ate, and
different patterns.
and she does
yeah,
photos. I love the photos.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm such a photo person with my food, so, like, I put it all in there, and, yeah, I love that. I log my medications a lot, and there I was doing that, and just the whole thing, the steps portion where you set that goal for yourself.
Yes, yeah.
Love that because you see the trend.
Mhm.
You just
Mhm.
see in the app. And just the videos that you put out there for people, like, the whole thing is just I tell people, I'm like, "It gave me my life back." Like, I'm on
Oh, I love that.
this Facebook group of, like, the POTS fully recovered, there's some I'm only
Yeah,
on the positive groups, but, like,
yeah,
well,
yes.
people there, and they're like, "What have you done?" I'm like, I tell them the POTS life. I'm like,
Yeah,
the link to it, and I've told my doctors that, and a few of my doctors, they all write it down. They're like, "What is it?" I'm like, "The POTS life," and they're like, "Oh, I gotta tell my
I
clients
love
that."
that.
And,
Yeah, because it gives you somewhere to
yeah,
give hope.
Yeah.
yeah. And the fact that it's not like it's so much harder getting in your car when you're sick to go to a physical
So much,
therapist,
so
Yep.
much.
like, and they probably don't really know what they're doing, to be honest.
Can
Like,
guarantee pretty much no, right.
like, and you can
Yeah.
do it from home. Oh, I just yeah, this has been the number one thing because I'm not on I didn't do any medications.
Mhm,
This has just been and I feel very lucky, I can say that, but, like,
Mhm.
mhm.
has been everything for me. I
Oh,
mean,
well, I love that,
like
and I love that the fact that she is so active in there. I think it's just, because in the community forum part, she'll post in there, and not everybody, I know some want to, but some are nervous, so I feel like Lauren posting, and then you'll see other people post or different things, or just
Yeah.
being able to connect with someone who's across the country, or if Lauren posts something, it's a good idea for somebody to see it wherever you are. So I just yeah, we love having her in there because
I'm
I
not
just think it
connected
brings positivity.
I've sorry to interrupt. I connected
Yeah.
with you've brought so many people into my life, because
Oh,
I talk
good.
to one girl in there all the time. We talk all the time now. Lindsay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah,
her to
she's a
hear.
whole 'nother state. Yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah, so it's just you just make so many connections. I've talked to a couple other people, and they just share their story, and, it's just yeah, it's the best, and
That
That's
is that
great.
makes me so happy
Yeah.
because that's what we wanted when we created this, because in office, people meet each other when they're here biking, but when I was, like, thinking of how we could recreate that inside the app, that's what we were hopeful for, that the
yeah,
community forum did that. That
yeah,
could bring people together, even though it doesn't matter your location, but then, you can connect in different ways and share stories because Lindsay's ahead of you, so she can kinda roadmap, like, "Hey, this is what I look like," or this is what you can expect, or yep, I've been through an illness, hang in there, stuff like that.
yeah. Oh, it's the best. Like, I think I've talked to a couple people along with Lindsay, and it's just,
Mhm.
like, I talked with Stephanie. I
Yeah.
got with her on Instagram and just
Yes.
That's
nicest
great.
it's just the nicest group
She's
of
so good,
women.
yeah.
Like,
It is. It is such a good group in there, and Steph, like, yes, being a graduate, having 2 kids, so we have people from all different walks of life, so it allows everybody to have somebody to relate to.
hilarious stories too, like, where I am.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, because it's not like you would know someone in your area
No.
that has POTS when they get a diagnosis of POTS. Like, what is this? And this
Yes.
helps you feel like you're not alone. You're not isolated. This helps expand that support system beyond just like your household, your family. This is like an expanded family, we'll call it.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, to help
huge,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and, like, they understand like, nobody without POTS is gonna understand, like,
No.
this,
How that actually feel that's what I say all the time, like, it not
yeah,
that your loved ones don't love you, and they
yeah,
do, but to feel those different symptoms and exactly what you said, how can somebody have so many different symptoms, and you feel one thing about POTS, you're so in tune with your body,
Oh,
whether you
yeah.
like it or not.
Yeah. And
And you feel all the things. So just being able to relate, and even that, like I might not have some of the symptoms that you had, but Lindsay might, or someone else in there, so it just gives different ways for people to connect.
absolutely, yeah. It's just been everything. It's been great.
I love that.
What advice would you give to someone newly diagnosed with POTS and considering to join the POTS Life program?
Oh my gosh. Just join immediately. I tell everybody it's exercise. Like you got, of course, like with doctor's permission. But I've talked to a couple people who were like, "Oh, I can't wait to exercise again. I can't wait to do this again." And I'm like, "Just do it now. Like, what
Just
are
do
Yeah.
it.
you waiting
You're
for? You
so
know?"
right. I think everybody, because traditional exercise, like that in this age population that it affects, would be like, well, I can't run or I can't go to the gym, but it's so not like that's not what you should be doing
Yeah.
anyway. So this allows that level, but it's hard. People have been wronged by exercise or have been to PT or have tried things and feel worse. But I
Yeah.
would bet 9 times out of 10, it was just the wrong thing.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like you're not going to lift weights. You're not going to be doing what you were doing, but it starts so. It just and it feels so good. Like you're on the ground at first. It's like
Yes.
so it's like perfect. And I said this to my husband the other day. I'm like, it's like magical because I wasn't feeling good, and then I got down. It's just like magic. Like
Blood
when
flow.
it's just the best. Like it just works. So I'm just so grateful. And I tell people, I'm like, you gotta start working out. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard is like, no one's coming to save you, which is hard advice,
Wow, that's so true.
It's
though.
good.
but I needed to hear it,
Mhm.
and I'm doing a lot better.
Yeah,
So
I haven't heard someone say it like that before, but
No, but
that
that's so good.
really, if
And
you,
it's
yeah,
kinda like a tearjerker too, because it's
Yes.
like, holy crap, and it's so
yeah,
true, and it's true the whole time, even now, 4 years out, like,
yeah,
if someone said, "Did you ever stop biking?" And I'm like, "No," because I never wanna go back there, and you saying that even 4 years could bring tears to my eyes, like,
yep.
oh
yeah,
my gosh, you're so right about that.
yeah, yeah. It's hard to hear, but it's just you gotta almost have to hear it
You have
because
to do
it's
it.
the way
Yeah,
it's the way.
Yeah.
yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
If you could describe your life with POTS in just one word, what would that be and why?
Oh man, just hopeful. I'm so hopeful. Like I mean, I'm so much better. I would say I feel just 90% back to myself, seriously. And I
That's
and I
great.
felt like I came from the lowest of low. And I
That
said
day one, when I talked to you, I mean, it was rock
yeah,
bottom.
it's rock bottom. I
It
say that
was.
because I want to give people that listen hope. Like
Yes.
can get so much better. You'll be able, like I couldn't even sit at the kitchen table, I couldn't even sit there without. It was miserable, but like I can eat dinner. I'm eating dinner with my kids. I can go do stuff, like you're going to be okay, but you just have to do it in this
Love
right
that.
way, you know. Thank you, Kelsey. You like
Oh, well, I'm so glad to have you. I think you have put in all the work and are still putting in the work and doing all the right things, and just I'm just so glad we did this because it does give people hope. That's what it's all about. Knowing that it can get better. It is a lot of work, and I'm not saying it's not bumpy, and we all experience the bumps, but looking at the last 4 months, you made progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, huge, huge. Like, yeah, it's night and day for sure. But I
Oh,
was
I
crying
love
on the
it.
bike. I mean, I was like crying through some of it. I mean,
Yes,
it
that's
was
real.
not
It's
fun.
realistic.
Yeah, like I was not, and I mean, but now it's like I enjoy it. It's starting to get to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm craving this. It feels really
Mhm,
good.
mhm.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's only realistic that in the first couple weeks, like I say to people, you're ticked or upset and disgusted. I mean, all the emotions that one, this is my life. Two,
Yep.
I
Yeah.
feel so terrible. Three, it's mean that I'm telling you to go exercise when you barely feel like you can get out of bed. You can't sit at the kitchen counter, but go get
Yeah.
on a bike. So,
Yeah.
no, 100%. I mean, it's all realistic emotions and it's just weathering through that first month. I tell people, like, hang on. If we can get you through there and then you start to grasp these little wins and then moving to month 4, I mean, imagine where you will be even in another 2, 3 months.
I know. I think about that all the time. I'm like, man, this is just unbelievable progress, and I'm just
Yes.
grateful. Just a lot of gratitude. So much gratitude.
sometimes, and I say this like looking back, I didn't realize how sick I was
Oh, yeah.
until I got better. And then I'm like, holy cow, like I thought I was doing okay. And then, and you realize, like you said, since you had COVID, you were barely hanging on. So it's probably hard to remember what even healthy Lauren is or was.
Yeah, I really don't. I said that the other day. I'm like, what is it? What did I feel like before? Because everything, it's just is kind of the new normal.
Mhm.
But in ways, like, I mean, I hear people who are like, I feel better than before I had pods. You know,
Mhm.
I hear a ton of people who say that. So it's like I like to keep that hope.
Oh,
And
for sure.
Yeah. It really gets you to listen to your body more, if nothing else. You learn your body, you learn what it needs, how it needs it, and it's
Mhm.
just like, you'll be better off 6 months, 8 months, 2 years down the line for knowing that. So, yeah.
yeah, I wish I had been doing all this stuff years ago. Seriously, it's just what I should have been doing anyhow. So, you know,
Just, you don't know till you know, right?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Lauren. It was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit more today. Thank you for your time and sharing your story.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. I'm just so grateful that you agreed to come on and share your story and
Mhm.
just give people hope who are newer to the program or thinking about it. We appreciate having you in there. We love it. We love where you're at and all the work that you're putting in. And I just can't wait to have you back when you're a graduate and we can
Woohoo!
share even more
Yes.
wins that you have. Yeah. Oh,
Me
I'm just
too.
so excited and so
Me
thankful you
too.
came on today.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button.
We'll see you next time. Bye.